Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books for kids, and today I'm doing the DNF tag. This is a shout out to Lady Jane Books. I've seen her do this one before, and I don't mind the book tag, so I think this is one I should give a go, because DNF is something we should all talk about. Otherwise, let's get into it. Question 1. Do you DNF? I didn't used to DNF much, though more recently I DNF a lot more frequently, but we'll get to that. Question 2. If you DNF, does it count towards a review? No. I don't believe it's a book that should be recognised as completed. Also with reviews, it depends. And there's also different points on where I DNF, but if I never finish the book, I never give a review. Question 3. Is there a difference between putting down a book and DNF? It depends. I feel if you have too much of a break between a book, it doesn't count as a book that you've read in some regards, so it should be classed as a DNF. If you put down a book and don't pick it up in more than a couple weeks, I don't think it should count. I think there should be some sort of level of dedication to reading the book for it to count as a read. Question 4. What popular books have you DNF? I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't mind the first Harry Potter book. I did like how the first book was written. The second book, a little bit better. After that, each book I just couldn't get into. I have put the book down and I just class it as a DNF. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I think J.K. Rowling has done an excellent job with how she targeted her audience. I also found she brought out another book, another adult fiction book. I can't remember the name off by heart, but I had to DNF it. I couldn't get into it. And then, as far as an indie author goes, there was Meg Latour with her book, The Cyborg Tinkerer. As an indie author, I thought, this is a fantastic book and an original idea. So I was keen to give it a go. With the first chapter, it was a struggle to get through it because of the amount of sexual references and content. And it is a garbage book by anything to whatever sort of standards. And talking about different types of subject matter that we shouldn't talk about on this type of channel, no, I don't recommend it to anyone. So that's one book that I regret picking up. However, it's time to move on. Question 5. Books you wish you DNF. Most of the time I just follow through with the commitment anyway to not need to DNF. Though as one sort of book series to talk about, Bridget Jones's Diary. I love the movie. I love all 3 movies. And I didn't think I'd like the third on the subject matter of Bridget Jones's baby between the 2 men and who's the father. However, it was hard for me to watch the films and I read the books. I enjoyed the first 2, though the third book, it just didn't have as much substance to it as what the movie did. And sometimes that's the problem with the comparisons. And with the story, when it came to the climactic point on who the father is and all her emotions, it just felt cheap. But the Bridget Jones trilogy, I didn't mind it. I hear that there's a works of a 4th movie, but who knows? Also on a side note, within the book Dark Sparrow, Jane Turner is based off a real person, a few years younger than myself, and the Maxwell Turner character is her father, which is the love interest of Dark Sparrow. So I inspire a lot of characterization from Mr. Mark Darcy.
Mother, I do not need a blind date, particularly not with some verbally incontinent spinster who smokes like a chimney, drinks like a fish, and dresses like her mother.
So when you read some of the imagination within the book, there is that sort of disturbing part because the character Maxwell Turner was inspired a bit by Colin Firth, but I've also taken some of the likeness of my actual lawyer and my brother. So when my mum realised some of those connections after I explained it, she felt it was quite disturbing.
Ignoring Trinity, Dark Sparrow began to daydream, thinking of Maxwell Turner. She imagined his brown hair combed back as the 2 of them lounged in red velvet robes and sipped red wine by a fireplace. She imagined his very sophisticated British accent telling her anything at any time of the day. In her daydream, Maxwell spoke, "Dark Sparrow, I see the suffering you once had still glistening like fireworks in your eyes. I am here to ease your pain. By the way, Dark Sparrow, Pain is my middle name. I know Jane is older than me, but her father is one hell of a man who can conjure me a frisbee on the beach while wearing no shirt, very short board shorts, and green zinc cream across his face. I hate reading instant romances, however, this is one fantasy I could live with.
But hey, sometimes we got to talk about books that we read and we don't read, and DNF is an important subject we do need to discuss. Question 6. Have you reattempted a DNF? Yes. There was one, A Song of Fire and Ice, or known as Game of Thrones. I tried with the series and the sexual content was too much for me. Just being honest. Then I tried with the book and it wasn't doing any justice. So I didn't mind how the book was outlined between character to character, so that was something that I did appreciate with how the book was structured, and I wanted to give it a fair go because of how popular the series is, also to do a decent review. Though trying to read it again, I just couldn't, so I went for the audiobook. And then when it came to some of the love romance that comes into the story later on, it sounded like the person narrating the book was my university professor who taught me English. So, yeah, it was quite a struggle to get through. And I have to say my English teacher, Gordon Kirkham, he has written a few fantastic books. His most popular, Random Reflections of a Loony Bin. He has a lot of insight within mental health, especially in the side of nursing. And his other book, Some Kind of Nurse. It's hard in the earlier old days becoming a male nurse. However, times have changed. In regards to Game of Thrones with the sexual references, back to the cyborg tinkerer, it's actually worse. And I only got through chapter 1, so listening to some other reviews in some more detailed, explicit content, I have to say, garbage. But again, as far as DNF goes in a subject matter, if Megalator did write something else, I would struggle to give her a second chance on another book. Question 7. What do you do with DNF books? The Cyborg Tinkerer? I burnt it with fire. Wasn't going to have anyone get their hands on it. Other books that I feel that I don't like, though someone else will, I usually donate it to a bookstore a couple cities away. And it just helps to create revenue for that bookstore, but someone else will get their hands on it. So I don't like to be wasteful with certain things. If it is a book that I did not finish, though it is something I'll hold to heart because of the author who it is, being a good person, I'll hold on to it. It just depends. Though sometimes with the amount of excess weight, sometimes it's just good to donate the books. Ebooks, on the other hand, just depends. I normally delete it if I don't like it. Question 8. Do you choose more risky books? Well, it really depends on the question. So I'll put it into a couple categories for an example. If it's romance, there is one author that I do like. I will say it's not my genre, though I found her books are tasteful and respectful. The characterizations are fantastic. So I think in something that's not my genre, I will be honest with a review on the other channel, of course, not for this channel. Now, if we're talking psychological stories that are like a lot deeper, such as Silence of the Lambs, yeah, I don't mind taking certain risk into some other territories, though I do always have those sorts of disclaimers to what subject matter is at hand. Now, taking into more risky books into other categories such as Dark Sparrow, it touches into urban fantasy, science fiction, and it does have a lot of different psychological themes through the story. And with a lot of the characterization, it gets pretty deep. So I don't mind taking risk on certain stories. It just depends on the genre, but I will always disclaim if something is or isn't my genre. Otherwise, that's it for the DNF tag. I will do a shout out to Lady Jane Books. I enjoy watching her channel and it inspires me to start doing some book tags. I will also do a shout out to Spooky Noodles. I challenge him to do the DNF review. Also, his channel is more focused on horror stories and other supernatural stories. So if you are into that type of genre, check out his channel. I'll leave a link to both channels at the end of this video. Otherwise, hit like, subscribe, comment, and I'll be doing some more book tags. If you want to tag me in something, go for it. I'm more than open to do book tags on this channel. Otherwise, that is another story and shall be told another time.